Simon Cowell is a TV mogul who doesn't back down and has eyes as sharp as knives. He went from being a boring mailroom worker that no one knew to being the most powerful person in the entertainment business very quickly. Everyone used to be amazed at how well he could spot talent, almost like magic. His golden eye was the best in the game. The person who made unknown people famous. He has been defining what TV power means for more than 20 years. He ignited the musical dreams of millions of people and became a symbol of strict rules and top-notch broadcasts. He came up with the ideas for American Idol, The X Factor, and Got Talent. Some shows made a whole generation of global stars who now have huge fortunes, lots of fancy homes and cars, and unmatched fame. He has a portfolio of homes and cars that would make even billionaires jealous. He makes up to $100 million a year. However, that beautiful appearance hides a man who is very lonely. One who has been depressed, broken his back in a terrible accident, and is now planning to leave a $600 million fortune to his children. What a huge amount of money he leaves behind. There are homes in over 70 countries, supercars from Italy to Britain, and mansions from the US to the UK. He owns a house on the beach in Malibu worth $24 million, a farm worth $15 million in Beverly Hills, a fancy apartment in New York, and a large, elegant house in London. He has more than 20 high-end cars in his garage, such as a Bugatti Veyron, a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a Ferrari 575, and a Bentley Azure. He shocked everyone when he said, "I'm not leaving my son anything." There may be a deep-seated void and a choice that made his friends cry behind that powerful man. But even the brightest diamond is made under a lot of stress and in the dark. Before his fame and wealth, Simon Cowell was just a weak boy who lived in a home that was too loud with expectations and too quiet with love. Simon was born in London in 1959 in the borough of Lambeth. He grew up in the quiet village of Elstree in Hertfordshire. His mom, Julie Brett, was a dancer. Stylish, distant, and always on the move, she is a dancer and a famous socialite. His dad, Eric Selig Philip Cowell, worked in the music business and built homes. He was an excellent person who rarely showed love. He never said, "I'm proud of you," even when I needed to hear it the most, Simon remembered later. Simon wasn't very smart. He didn't get all A's in school. In fact, he had a terrible time in school. He went to Radlett Preparatory School and then Dover College. He didn't fit in, he didn't follow the rules, and he dropped the ball. Getting by with just a GCE in English and sociology, he quit school. He went from one dead-end job to another because he didn't know what to do and was already upset with himself. Eventually, his father, maybe out of sympathy or guilt, got him a job in the mailroom at EMI Music. There was a step into show business, but it was only as a ghost. Simon said that I brought coffee to producers every morning, but they wouldn't even look me in the eye. In a world crazy about fame, he was unnoticeable. He would look through their fan mail every day and watch stars walk by. He was the kid who lived behind the scenes in a world that loved being in the sun. He left EMI angry and ashamed, sure that his life was doomed to fail. Still, when he tried to get other jobs, he kept getting turned down, which hurt what little faith he had left. Not because he wanted to, but because he had nowhere else to go, he crawled back to EMI. But something began to grow where that humility had been. A quiet fight back. Simon co-founded Fanfare Records in 1983 with nothing but a damaged phone book and a strong desire to make a difference. It wasn't exciting. The record company sold workout tapes and nonsense songs, but it was his. At last, something was his. Then, in 1986, Sunita's So Macho came out on Fanfare and went straight to #1. Not much of a hit, but enough to pay the bills. Enough for him to believe it. Even so, success was short-lived. Fanfare fell apart in 1989. Simon had no money. He moved back in with his parents and slept in the room he used to have as a kid. almost 30 years old, poor, and ashamed. He would say years later, "I used to cry in the bathroom after work. At 25, I thought my life was at its best." But the spark lived on beneath the hopelessness. The story of Simon Cowell's rise is not a fairy tale. There was self-doubt, rejection, and shame in the air during the fight. But it also showed that success isn't always born, but is made in the fire of failure. He didn't become famous by accident. He kept going. He fought. He built his kingdom one painful brick at a time. Simon Cowell was a nameless figure behind the scenes in the tough world of British pop music long before anyone knew his name. He had his first real taste of success with Sanita's "So Macho" in 1986. It was a bright pop hit that went straight to the top of the charts. That song was more than just a nice tune. It saved my life. Simon finally had something to show that he belonged after years of being turned down, having businesses fail, and being fired several times. But success didn't come to them like a warm hug. It felt like a test. Soon after, BMG hired Cowell as an A&R consultant. In this job, he was able to find undiscovered talent and turn it into a hit song. He wasn't famous yet, but he was working on what would become his most dangerous trait, an almost magical desire to be famous. In the 1990s, Cowell started S Records and signed some funny and TV acts. People in the music business made fun of Simon for writing songs for Power Rangers and WWF wrestlers, but Simon didn't let it bother him. They didn't know what he knew. Power came from mass attraction. In 1995, he made a cover of the Unchained tune that was #1 on the UK charts for 7 weeks in a row. It did very well at the box office and was another piece in the base he was slowly laying. Simon later said, "People laughed at what I signed. But I wasn't trying to make reviewers happy. I wished to stir people up. That's what pop is." Then things began to change. Pop Idol in the year 2001. People were shocked and interested when Cowell appeared on TV as a judge because of his direct, uncensored style. People either hated him or couldn't take their eyes off of him. He was not pretending. He was just saying what other people thought but were afraid to say. People often heard him say, "I'm not being rude," before he said something mean that would hurt their feelings. The format blew up. The success of Pop Idol led straight to American Idol, where Cowell became famous all over the US and made up to $75 million a year at its peak. He started the X Factor in the UK in 2004 and Got Talent 2 years later. The show would go on to be a brand that would cover more than 70 countries. He was no longer just a judge. He planned entertainment for the whole world. In spite of this, there was opposition, inspection, and personal cost in every success story. He was called Mr. Nasty and was called a heartless machine and even cruel. Some people questioned his morals. Former contestants said he used feeling to get what he wanted. Simon's answer: "If you lie to people about their skills, you're taking their dreams. I know I sound harsh. I'd rather tell them the truth and hurt them than lie to them and make them feel better." By 2010, Cowell had changed what it meant to be a big name on TV. He made stars like Leona Lewis, Susan Boyle, and One Direction. He was a judge on several countries. He got a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. But there was a price to pay for the sharp suit and cold look. "I work 20 hours every day. Is this what I want my life to be?" I'd ask myself before bed. Fame didn't fill the void, Cowell said one time. It often made it wider. He had done it. But how much does it cost? The incident of 2013 didn't just burn, like a spotlight that turns into a forest fire. It burned up every part of Cowell's carefully planned life. Simon Fuller was in the news all over the world when it came out that he was having a child with his close friend Lauren Silverman. The news spread like wildfire, making people feel betrayed and morally outraged. It wasn't just a scandal, it was a crack in the world he had worked so hard to build. Andrew Silverman, Lauren's husband at the time, asked for a divorce because she had been having an affair. The tabloids wrote horrible things about Cowell's character, his friends turned away, and the public's view changed quickly. For a man who had always been the center of attention, he wished he could take off at this point. In a rare moment of weakness, Cowell later said, "It was not something I'm proud of. He got through it, though, and he changed my life. He might have even kept it." He went through a lot after the birth of his son in February 2014. It was forgiveness in a tiny package. Simon went from being a super busy worker to a man who was learning how to be present, kind, and read bedtime stories all in one night. He gave Lego sets and children's books in exchange for international flights and TV deals. It was a habit to do it every night. Time for baths, bedtime, and stories. For a man who used to eat dinner in private jets more often than at the dinner table, it made the heart beat faster. He said once, "My priorities have changed a lot. All of a sudden, numbers and contracts weren't important to me. It was about him." Yet, the weight of what made Eric show up never really left him. It hurt his image more than anything else. It showed a weakness that Cowell had always hidden with control and bravado. In conversations years later, he often talked about that time, not to defend himself, but to think about what happened. "I had friends die. I stopped believing. But I got something I didn't know I needed," he said. He didn't make excuses, he was just honest. He admitted that the guilt had become a quiet friend who would visit in the quiet times between laughs and lullabies. It taught them not only about consequences but also about second chances. People close to Cowell noticed the change right away. He stopped being the emotionally detached boss who gave orders from behind a desk and started asking about school events and taking time off to be there. His co-workers said they saw a new softness and humility in him that hadn't been there before. Some doubters said he was just acting out a redemption story, but those who knew him best said it was real. Being a dad saved him. Even before the scandal, he was on a dark path, said an unnamed longtime friend. He had a reason to stop, heal, and start over because of Eric. This trip that Cowell took with Eric showed that even the biggest mistakes can lead to the biggest changes. He once said that being a dad was the one thing he didn't think he needed but now can't imagine life without. Even so, there was still tension between public repentance and private sorrow. He didn't think everyone would forgive him. There was a chance he didn't even deserve it. He knew he had to change, even if it was just for the little boy who called him dad. The story changed from something for the tabloids to something more personal and universally human, a broken guy trying to rebuild. The press moved on in the end, but Cowell didn't. He was still responsible for that choice while he played with his son before bed and took him to school. It wasn't a story about coming back. He said it again years later, but this time in a lower, more thoughtful voice. It was a reckoning. That may be the saddest truth of all. Sometimes the most amazing things that happen in our lives happen because of the worst things we do. For Simon Cowell, that surprise came at a high cost. Every time he said sorry, hugged her before bed, or promised to do better, he paid it back in full. This was his second chance. It wasn't about numbers this time. It was about love. For Simon, the lights never really went down. Cowell. Even though she was famous on TV, she was going through a lot of personal tragedies and physical breakdowns behind the scenes. It began when he lost his father, who was the most stable person in his life.